When I first heard about Subnautica Below Zero, it can be pretty much summed up to it's worse than the first one. So what went wrong? There's a lot of similarities between Below Zero and the first game. Like most of the items you find and craft, the creatures, and just the general look and feel of the game. The story of Below Zero is very different from the first one. Instead of crash landing on a planet, you smuggle your way on the planet to investigate your sister's death. Now what got me most confused here is why didn't we bring more things with us before going down? Like, we know we're going to a planet we have never been on before, we don't know what we will find, so why not bring more shit? Now of course you can't start the game with a bunch of stuff, but maybe change the intro a bit so it makes more sense, like in the first game. With a quick glance, Below Zero is much like the first game, but used a different setting, but when you play the game you'll notice a good bunch of changes. A fair amount is still good and brought over from the first game, like the visuals and soundtrack. The first Subnautica visuals and soundtrack got you really immersed in the world. I do find that the environment design is slightly better in the first game, but it's still good here, for the most part. Wait, what the fuck is happening here? The texture is glitching over here. What the fuck is this shit? It's still fun to looking around and exploring the world to see what you might find. There are 3 storylines, and honestly, I only found one interesting, and that's the alien one. At the beginning they were interesting enough, but 2 of them kind of led to nothing. With Margaret, you meet her 3 times and then you forget about her, and each of the encounters are brief. With Sam's plotline, you find an old lab and disinfect a large item frozen in ice. There are small details about each of the plotlines, but I didn't even know about them until writing this. The way they did the story in the first game was better as it was more focused instead of split up like it is here. My focus was for the most part on the alien plotline. Early in the game, close to the drop pod, you find an alien distress call. Your goal is to build a new body, so the alien that entered your body when you found the distress call can then enter that body instead. This storyline is the only one you need to do in order to finish the game. This confusing layout and number of storylines just make the whole story of Below Zero much less interesting. Instead of having one storyline, like focusing on your lost sister and having to help her with research and then having to escape with her after it goes horribly wrong. While that is one of the issues I have with the game, the second is the scale of the game. Everything is smaller than the first game. The map is 4 to 5 times smaller, and even the enemies aren't as big or even as terrifying as the first game. It feels more like swimming in a big lake rather than being in an ocean, and I found that the fear was part of the experience when it comes to Subnautica. And while there are still moments that spark fear in Below Zero, it was not even close to the first game. Remembering in the first game driving your Seamoth and just hearing a distant sound, and from the depths of Leviathan just shows up, and your heart starts pumping and fear starts setting in. Oh! Shadow. Something's telling me that's turning towards me. Oh, it's definitely turning towards me. Ah! Yeah, that isn't Below Zero. There are moments coming close to that here, but not as good as before. I also found the lack of a distinct landmark disturbing. There is no aurora to look at and easily find your bearing. There is the Delta Station, but that doesn't even come close to the aurora. It's way less interesting, and it doesn't even have big scary sea monsters around it. It has some kind of enemy, but it doesn't really do much in my experience. That's another thing that bothered me. The enemies aren't as terrifying here as before. Some might be a bit scary, but there aren't many of them, and it's very easy to get rid of them. For the most part, I never felt safer being in an ocean. Subnautica Below Zero is a game that has potential and could be something special. So what went wrong then? Well, for me it was the scale of the game and its lack of a real story to follow and sink your teeth into. Now there are still things to enjoy in this game, but not the same level as it did before. They failed to go above or even meet the same level of quality they did with the first game, and it ultimately left me disappointed with Subnautica Below Zero. If you want to see me play Subnautica Below Zero, make sure to check out this video next. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.